Well, good evening and welcome to France 24's Africa Cup of Nations Roundup show. I'm Emily Boyle, and joining me on set tonight to debrief all of today's football are Tando Sibia and Karim Balde. Hello to you both. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Today was a packed day, 4 games in total, and it gave us a first glimpse of Senegal. They went up against Botswana in the Grand Stade de Tanger. Despite a tense start, the Lions of Teranga clawed away at their opposition. Nicholas Jackson found the back of the net at the 40th minute. Jackson was not done though and danced around the box before making it 2-0 a few minutes into the second half. The Zebras could not keep the Lions at bay though, as Ndiaye made it 3-0 right at the whistle. Jackson's 2 goals made him man of the match. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Very happy to win the man of the match. Hopefully many more to come, but right now that's not important. We just try to focus for the next game and prepare ourselves because we have 3 days for the next game. So we're very happy that we won and we just move on to the next one.
Well, Senegal widely considered to be one of the favourites. What do you make of their first outing in this competition, Karim?
That's a confirmation that Senegal is one of the favourites of this competition. And what we saw today is a result of their work for the last year, even last 2 years. It took a little while before they could score the first goal, but it was a one-sided game for the whole game. Like they attacked from the first minute to the last minute, and that was very important. And before they scored, thanks to Nicholas Jackson, they had 13 shots, among them 6 on target. But they keep pushing, and then after Jackson scored the first one, we knew that it was all done for Senegal. So congrats to them and to Paptio, because we saw 4 offensive players: Sadio Mane, Iliman Ndiaye, and Nicholas Jackson, as well as Ismail Assar. So yeah, this is very powerful from Senegal.
And 3-0 is probably one of the biggest scores that we've seen so far. Why are they so dominant?
I think it's a philosophy or just a strategy that's been developing for many years, and it's now become the Senegalese football philosophy, which is attack and go up front and just make sure there's no room to even defend. But when you have to, you will, and I think they are capable. But I just think that it weighs a lot heavier in the attack or the offensive side for the Senegalese side. It's always the same guys. It's always Thiaw, it's always the same guys who are performing as well. But I mean, if you have an offensive side that's marshalled by Sadio Mane, an experienced player like he is, then you can assure that the rest of them will find the confidence that even if we provide, there is a finisher. And I think that is something that the least or lesser experienced sides tend to be struggling with, is the finishing, because they don't have that outright experienced finisher in the side. And that's what makes Senegal that strong in this tournament, yeah.
Well, we saw their dominance. I think a special mention, though, has to go to Botswana's keeper, Foko, who made 14 saves. He was under constant siege. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, it was a great performance despite they were dominated for the whole game. And you need a goalkeeper just to avoid a larger scoreline. So it was better for Botswana to get that goalkeeper. I listened to French commentaries during the game, and they talked about is little like overweight, let's say, but at the end he was good enough to keep his abilities to make some important saves, and especially during the second half, even if it was a 3-0 game at the end, but still it could have been worse for the Zebras.
Yeah, well, you were talking about experience. It's only Botswana's second appearance at an AFCON.
Yeah.
Do you think you see any potential there?
I think they can grow, especially considering how the squad is made up. They only have 5 players that are based outside of the domestic league, which tells you a lot about their exposure to external styles of play. So I do think that with a little bit more time in the tournament, being exposed to certain kinds of opponents, it can raise the bar, because sometimes you're only playing at the level of your opponent. And so when you're facing a Senegalese side and you finish at 3-0, I do think that they're capable of doing a little bit better. Making an example about this, Senegal themselves, they defeated England during this year, and then they went on to be defeated by Brazil 2-0, I think it was. But then just 3 days after that game, they defeated Kenya 8-0. So do you see what happens when you raise the stakes a little bit? So making that same example with Botswana, it can be a good thing to have a start like this. We did say that when you have a slightly weaker start, it does give you a little bit of momentum, because then you can go back to the drawing board from a less confident stance, and then you actually can correct the things that need to be corrected. Whereas if you're a side that's a little bit more confident and you go in a lot stronger, there isn't much that you're looking to correct, and that's where a lot of sides and the big sides are found wanting. So don't give up on Botswana just yet. Even if this is not the AFCON where they make it to the quarterfinals, for example, I do think that this is a great, what is this? Springboard. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Kareem, any player of the match for you?
Well, we could quote Nicholas Jackson, obviously. And it's funny because many people make fun of Nicholas Jackson because of his lack of efficiency in front of the net sometimes. He's now with Bayern Munich. Even the Bayern Munich CEO said in an interview, well, I'm not quite sure I'm going to put him on the field enough to keep him after the end of the season because he's on loan this season, Nicholas Jackson. But still, he was efficient to score twice in this game. And I could talk a little bit about Sadio Mane because we got some doubts on his physical ability. This is only Botswana, and I'm not so confident as Thando about Botswana's chances to go further because I think that DR Congo, they are above Botswana and Benin as well. So at some point, they have to get points in that competition. But to come back on Senegal quickly, I will put the finger on Sadio Mane because I was afraid that he wouldn't be able to rise up in terms of physical abilities. But in this match, we saw, as you said earlier, his experience, and he could deliver some good assists throughout the game. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about Sadio Mane's condition now.
Okay, well, we saw Senegal, one of the big favourites. Another big favourite, though, is Nigeria. They also launched their AFCON campaign. They were up against Tanzania, a team that has never won a single game in an AFCON. That ended in a 2-1 win for the Super Eagles. Tanda, you were saying that Nigeria may be your favourites. Do they live up to your expectations?
Yes. I think they, like I said yesterday, like I've been saying for a long time, they play football that's very exciting to watch, especially in this game particularly. There we go. Alex Iwobi was the player that I actually wanted to speak about, and his impact in this game, 2 assists, which is the most that he's had in an AFCON. And I think that, like I said, what you need with a finisher in Sadio Mane is what you need a provider in every squad as well. That if he is not the finisher, he's kind of like Bradley Barcola for PSG.
Yeah.
He's not so strong in finishing, but he creates, whether it's in the wings, he brings the ball forward, knowing that that front line is definitely going to do the job. Yesterday, I spoke about Ademola Lookman. Look who scored today. Lookman. You see. Also, Osimhen was quite strong. So, like I said, there's a lot of depth in this side, especially going up front. And so they do give for good football to watch. Tanzania also, to hold them to 2-1, I do think that it's something that we can keep looking at. And they capitalized on Nigeria's lapse in concentration towards the end of the game, which is what I spoke about yesterday. The mindset has to be in there all the way till the end, because if you don't have that, you're going to be found wanting, and Tanzania capitalized on that, and they could have done it to equalize if they went a little bit further.
Well, you talked about Osmi, and he had 7 attempts on goal, no goals, none found the back of the net. I felt like when I was watching it, Nigeria were constantly in front of the box or in the box, but they only got 2 in. Do you think they should have got more in?
Yes, definitely, because of that impressive offensive line with Alex Iwobi, with Samuel Chukwueze as well, with Moses Simon, who had a great impact coming off the bench in the second half. But regarding Osimhen, this is always the same story. He's the captain, he's the leader. We are all sure about it, but we expect more from him in terms of scoring goals. And during the last AFCON, they went up to the final, but Osimhen wasn't able to score many goals. And that's the case as well in the last year or so, because we saw during the World Cup qualifiers, during the playoffs, for example, he had a massive chance against Gabon, and that was off target, and then Gabon equalized in the last minute, and it went to overtime. So, yeah, that's why we are all like mixed up. We have mixed feelings about Victor Osimhen, but he's a great player, obviously, and well, we are waiting for him to score, and he tried to score several times during this game, and we see that he's looking for confidence in front of the net.
Yeah, well, it's still maybe yet to find that. Hopefully in the next few games we'll see that coming from him. Well, we've talked about those 2 big names. Let's turn to the DR Congo versus Benin game. Theo Bondonga scored early on in the game in the 16th minute, and it stayed at 1-0 until the final whistle. The scoreline might not suggest much drama, but we had our first controversy of the tournament. A potential handball and penalty for Benin had to be checked by the referee. The problem was VAR had broken down. Here's what the players had to say after the game.
It's a shame in such a big competition to almost get robbed. There's a handball by Mbemba, and why at that moment isn't VAR working? I don't get it. Having issues like this leaves a bitter taste, as if it only works in one direction.
I don't understand. The Beninese were asking for a foul, but I knew there wasn't one. The referee came back and I'm told it's an offside that was penalised. That's football. We'll look at the footage, and I think if they called it offside, that's what it was. But we shouldn't focus too much on the referees. They did their jobs well.
Well, a bit of confusion, a bit of disappointment there from the players of both sides, actually. What did you make of that VAR issue, Karim?
It's a shame that we have VAR issues in the group stage of the AFCON. That's my first point. It reminded me of what happened a few years ago with Espérance Sportive de Tunis in the CAF Champions League final, and the VAR wasn't working at that moment, and they knew that during the game, and players were not aware. What the ref has done today was better because he gave the information to players. The problem is he told the players of the VAR malfunction after Charles Mbemba's handball. And we saw in the pictures and we saw it on the footages that was a clear handball. I mean, it should have been a penalty, but without VAR, this is not normal to not have VAR for like 10, 15 or 20 minutes into a game. The ref tried to do as much as he can, but yeah, definitely it was a shame for Benin because at the end they lose the game 1-0 and they feel like, well, it could have been another story.
Well, looking at the football, though, Tando, any standout players for you?
From DRC, we can have it with an easy call with the captain, Chancel Mbemba. I think because of his leadership in the squad, especially coming into situations such as these, I think how he ushers the whole side is quite remarkable. From Benin's side, I didn't have any standouts, but I do think as the tournament continues, then I will be able to then see some standout players. So in this game, I didn't have anything that stood out quite that much. Yeah. Yeah,
but for Benin, we have to say that 5 of their players were out today because of a weird suspension, because the CAF decided to take into account yellow cards awarded into the qualifying campaign. And usually when we start a final stage, like the real competition, they go back to zero. They go back from scratch in terms of yellow cards, and that wasn't the case. And CAF announced it quite late, so 5 of their players were out. Among them, the captain, Steve Mounier, former Brest player and Huddersfield player as well. You have also Utonji, which is an important defender. So it was kind of a B team for Benin today. And Benin is not like DRC or it's not like Senegal with a huge squad, a deep squad. That's not the case. So they did as much as they can with the players able to be on the pitch. That wasn't enough today. It was close, but still, that's a shame that they couldn't have those players into the field. But I will just point out one of their players, which is Dodo Doku. He had some opportunity with the header, especially in the first half. And yeah, he could have done better, but still, yeah. Benin, I want to wait for them in the second game because their players, Mounier and Utonji and others, will come back.
Well, we have that yet to see. But let's cross over now to France 24's Selina Sykes, who was actually in the stadium to watch that game and see it all happen. Selina, that was maybe the first refereeing issue of the tournament. What was happening in the stadium during that moment?
Well, Emily, you mentioned it and the players mentioned it in those sound bites. So we heard a lot of confusion in the stadium, in the stands, among the fans, but also among the journalists to begin with. I think about 10 minutes of extra added time was given because of the confusion over that mishap. And it has to be reminded that a few moments earlier, a goal from Congo had been ruled out from VAR. But with that mishap, and as you said, quite clearly afterwards, a handball from a Newcastle defender. Clearly, it looks like afterwards having handled the ball there. VAR having worked earlier on to rule out Congo a goal. So Benin probably feeling pretty hard done by there in that match. Obviously, the only goal of that match from DR Congo's Theo Bongonda for the Leopards, pouncing on that chance in the 17th minute. So big 3 points for DR Congo in this group, because they'll be facing big favourites Senegal next. But yeah, Benin probably feeling a bit hard done by after that one.
Well, Selina, you managed to see another game this evening as well. Tunisia, Uganda, which just finished. Tunisia looked pretty comfortable there despite that last-minute goal. What did you make of it?
Yeah, a very comfortable win for Tunisia there, that 3-1 win there. A goal very early on from Ilyas Shaqiri, a header after 10 minutes. Another goal from Ilyas Ashuri just before half-time. He got a double there. He getting another goal in the 65th minute, a double from the Tunisian there. Uganda getting that consolation goal at the end there. They didn't really pose much of a challenge, bar that. They had some good ideas tactically, but lacked a bit of technique, I have to say, against the Tunisians. A big 3 points for the Eagles of Carthage, because they are up against another Eagles, the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Well, we'll be coming back to Selina later on in the show. Tunisia, as you said there, seemed to be cruising tonight in Rabat. They scored 3, only conceded 1 goal, something that they're not particularly used to.
Yeah, definitely, because during the qualifying campaign for the World Cup, no goal conceded, which is a massive exploit. Let's be honest with our viewers. So yeah, they have a strong defense. They conceded that last goal, last minute, maybe a lack of concentration with the ball from maybe deflected by Yann Valéry. But still, this is a great defense on the Tunisian side. And the Aigle de Carthage will rely on it to go far into that competition with very experienced defenders such as Dylan Brown, for example. He was there, I think, in 2018, the World Cup, and in the AFCON of 2019 in Egypt, when they finished in the 3rd position. And he had a great header save at the end of the first half. We saw as well Ali Abdi, the left back, is going back and forth each and every time on the left side of the pitch. He delivered an assist today, and he's very precious in terms of defensive tasks as well. So yeah, Tunisia is to follow because of their defense and their goalkeeper.
What, in your opinion, Tando, makes these Carthage Eagles so good?
It's the overall experience. So from front to back, I think in attacking they have a lot of experience, and also in defense as well, there's a lot of experience. And when I say experience, it's not necessarily an age thing. It's experience in the development structures or the developments that these players have gone through for them to get the experience that they have in the respective sides that they play for. So I do think that's what makes them strong. But one thing that I did notice in this game particularly, especially because you mentioned the point that it's not normal for them to concede, and you mentioned their record that has been outstanding, that they hadn't conceded, and then you come and concede against the Ugandan side. I do think that we should give kudos to Paul Pitt, who is the coach of the Ugandan side, for the risk-taking that he's been making in this AFCON tournament that we've come into right now. So just looking at the changes that he made after the 3rd goal. Normally when you're behind, you're trailing by 3 goals to none, the decision automatically is to park the bus, defend so that you don't concede any more. But instead, he brings on 2 strikers and a midfielder at around 68, 70 minutes. And then 90th minute, there you see one of the substitutions scores a goal, Dennis Omedi. And so I think that kind of risk-taking, and also bringing on into the selection a 17-year-old player who's been playing for under 17 in the way of, it's coming, James Bukhane. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. But he played in the under 17 World Cup and AFCON for Uganda, and he's been outstanding. He's actually been called out as one of the young stars to look out for this year. So maybe in the next edition of the CAF Awards, he could walk away with the young player of the tournament, or young star, rising star, to look out for. So when you have a coach who's willing to take that many risks and of that nature, it's going to give for some good football. So Uganda is definitely a side to look out for in the rest of this tournament. Tough group, but I do think that they can give us something exciting to watch. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've gone over those 4 games. Let's have a quick look at the scores of the evening. DR Congo won 1-0 against Benin. Senegal 3-0 against Botswana. Nigeria won 2-1 against Tanzania, and Tunisia won 3-1 against Uganda. That's for the scores there you can see on your screens. Let's have a look at tomorrow. Another action-packed day. 4 more games to look forward to. Let's have a look at the fixtures here. Burkina Faso against Equatorial Guinea and Algeria against Sudan. Ivory Coast against Mozambique and Cameroon against Gabon. Now, Selina can't join us due to a technical issue, but she will be following that Algeria-Sudan match and bringing you all of that news tomorrow. What about our experts here on set? Is there any game that you will be looking out for in particular?
Yeah, 2 of them, Algeria versus Sudan, because we don't put Algeria as favorites of the competition. They lost and they were out of the competition after group stage in 2024 and in 2022. So it means that Vladimir Petkovic's players are kind of underdogs this year, which can be quite weird when we look at the quality of the squad led by Riyad Mahrez, which will we can be sure that could be his last AFCON before the World Cup next June and July. So it's going to be interesting to see them facing Sudan, because we don't talk about Sudan, but they have 2 main clubs. One of them is Al Hilal, Omdurman, and they did great, especially on the African side on the CAF Champions League, and they have good players. I will pick up one of them, which is Mohamed Abdul Razak, which is one to follow and scored in the CAF Champions League before this AFCON, and I think that Sudan can be very tough to play against in this competition.
Tando, any games you'll be tuning into?
I'll definitely want to see that one as well, to see how Algeria is going to perform. I think in the past few years, they've been trailing behind with the North African giants. So it would be interesting to see if any changes have been made coming this side. But also, for obvious reasons, Ivory Coast. We all want to see what the champions are going to bring in this edition of the tournament. They are also still looking like favorites on paper. They do have a quite solid selection, and so I think I'm definitely looking forward to those 2 games.
Although hosts have a hard time maintaining or keeping their title, right, in AFCON, so theoretically the odds are against them.
Unless you're Egypt.
Unless you're Egypt, and you can do a
three-peat,
easy peasy.
Yeah.
But how do you see Ivory Coast's chances to retain that title?
We don't talk so much about Ivory Coast, which is a good thing. Usually, the defending champion is the favorite of the competition, but the whole pressure is on Morocco, so they could advance on their own, and especially in Marrakech, which is not in Rabat. You have many journalists, like in Marrakech, it's more remote, so they can try to build their journey more easily and maybe more comfortably. They have a tough group with Cameroon and with Gabon as well, which is a good thing to get the pace from day one of that competition. And it's going to be interesting to follow Emir Sfaé's choices, because he decided to let aside Nicolas Pepe and to bring back Wilfried Zaha, even if Zaha wasn't there in the squad, which has won 2 years ago. So we'll see his starting 11 as well, to see if they put Zaha or other maybe surprises into the squad on the pitch from tomorrow's game.
What about Cameroon? They've had a rocky few weeks coming into.
You're not saying rocky. It wasn't that.
Rocky is a slight euphemism there, but they've had quite a strange or odd or unusual 2 weeks coming into this competition. 2 squads were announced, for instance. A lot of drama, beef going on. Do you think that's going to affect their chances in this competition?
Perhaps not. Ivory Coast had a lot of drama last time and they came out as champions. So I do think that it can build some kind of on-the-field focus. So I definitely think we shouldn't let this distract us so much. It might even be part of a strategy that we're not aware of. No, I'm joking.
Wow.
But I do think that we shouldn't rule them out as not dark horses, not favorites, but just as the team to watch,
Do you have any players that you're watching on that squad?
In Cameroon?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see goalkeepers, because Andre Onana was one of the players which was put out of that squad for this AFCON, because he was part of the rebellion back in March. So we'll see about goalkeepers in Cameroon to see whether they could have a good goalkeeper in the absence of Andre Onana. And they have many players lacking, such as Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, who was a captain for some time. So, yeah, let's see how the new head coach of Cameroon will do with this squad, and especially in the group stage.
And Tando, finally, can you predict any upsets for tomorrow, or do you think they're all going to go the way we expect?
I think quite like today, a little bit like what we expect. I just think in terms of the margins that we can expect, maybe that can be interesting. With the Algeria game, I think maybe we can see a 2-1 as well. I don't think that... Okay, yeah, let me just leave it there. Let me not go any further. Let's just leave it there.
Let's leave it to tomorrow to see. Well, I'm afraid that's all that we've got time for this evening. I'd like to thank my brilliant experts, Tando Sabia and Karim Balde. Thank you very much. As well as all the France 24 teams behind the scenes. Our AFCON Roundup show will be back on the 27th of December. In the meantime, enjoy the football, and I'll see you then.